I believe that God's special desire is for all of His children to prosper. Really, poverty is the result of the devil's work. It's important to remember that the devil is always behind poverty. People suffer, people die, people need bread. Many people from all over the earth suffer from some kind of a need or live under very tough circumstances. Those can be common people. Just look, even Americans or Canadians suffer from credit card debts or other kinds of limitations. But I believe in financial freedom, in prosperity, and in an abundance. As I meditate on life, I remember the times when I knew nothing about sacrifices. I had no idea that God can show His favor in a person's life. I didn't know that every individual can bring his sacrifices to God and do it the right way. Your sacrifice needs to become a testimony of your faith, and then your sacrifice will be pleasing to God. When I discovered the truth, I started sacrificing right away. I believed in it, and in a short while, I really saw God blessing me in a mighty way. I remember visiting Prophet T.B. Joshua in Lagos, Nigeria. I brought a financial sacrifice alone. It was long ago. I still lived in Nipra. And you know something, my friends? I had $15,000 with me. It was a big amount of money for me back then. So when I met the prophet, I blessed him with that money. Then we had a nice and long fellowship. We prayed together. And at some point he said, "Now you will return home, and you will have as much money as you have never had before, and it will never change." I remember thinking, where on earth will that money come from? How can it just appear out of nowhere? But the most amazing thing was that I came back, and it was the middle of February. We were doing a healing crusade in the Palace of Culture called Shenik. Actually, it was March 3rd. I remember it until now. And somehow, by March 3rd, I was already the owner of a house that was worth $350,000, and I had a $100,000 car. Just so you know, the cars I had before cost about $5,800 or close to $10,000 tops. How did it happen? It was a supernatural act. The money really came. Miracles began to happen. As I meditate on life, I can't stop thinking how hard life must be for people who have no money. Not having money, I remember it clearly. How well do I understand those who have become slaves of poverty, who suffer under the curse of poverty or the inflicted curse of poverty? When you don't have money, You're humiliated. You're really despised. It looks like money limits you in every possible way. There are others who can afford going on with their lives, getting better, buying things they like. But if a person has no money, just think of a girl, a woman who walks past an expensive boutique, and she won't even look inside. She will look away as though that boutique was meant for people who belong to a different category. So she goes to a thrift store, a second-hand store, and buys stuff there. I remember doing that. Once I found a jacket in a thrift store and it was nice, so it made me really happy. What a precious possession. It cost pennies. You know, if you don't have money, humiliating things happen. I'm sharing my ideas with you. I remember standing on the side of the road and watching cars moving by. I was in Pereshapina back then, and it was past Novomoskovsk. So there were cars on the highway. I remember one car shooting by really fast. The driver was probably driving at around 100 miles an hour. Another car moved by. Those were expensive cars from foreign countries, and I had a feeling as though there was a deep gap between me and those people, as though they were creatures from a different planet. It was something inconceivable. What kind of life did they have? How was it possible to own such expensive cars and move so fast? I have loved cars since childhood. Having a car was my dream. When I was growing up, I was an unbeliever, so I stole my first car when I was 13. It was a stupid thing to do, really. I was caught almost immediately. But I'm just trying to tell you how much I loved cars. I even judged people on the basis of the cars they owned. You may use other qualities as the criterion, of course. Not having money defeated me. Poverty defeated me. Not having money turned me into a second-class person. It was even hard for me to talk to people who had money. I looked up to them. But of course, God taught me the right thing to do. I began to sacrifice. I became a pastor who would turn down financial help that came from other countries, Canada, America, and so on. I told them that I would be the one to bless them financially. I believe it was going to happen when I didn't have a penny in my pocket. But I said, no one will pay my bill at a restaurant ever again. I made that decision. And of course, it was God who led me to that decision. Some of you may be listening to me now, thinking, but what am I supposed to do? I'm feeling humiliated too. I know what financial limitations lead to. You feel tied up. You can't just enter a store and buy what you want. I remember coming to a conference in Kiev with Sergey Yanush. When the meeting was over, we went out to eat. It turned out to be an expensive restaurant. We picked up the menu and began to study it. And you know how poor people look through the menu. First thing, they look at the prices, and only then they decide what they want to eat. So I looked at the prices, I barely looked at the food items. I remember the soup they had. This soup was very expensive, so I said, Sergey, let's go buy some yogurt and rolls and eat outside. And I remember Sergey saying, no, it's time for us to start thinking like rich people. We are eating here. I remember that moment so clearly. So we placed our orders, and we left all the money we had at that restaurant. But something happened. Today I understand how anyone would rather look at the things than the prices. It's much nicer to study cars, not their prices. Can a poor person become rich? How real is that? But I was poor once, and I became rich. I became a prosperous person. I consider myself a prosperous person. I saw a verse in the Bible, and it really helped me. It's from 1 Samuel 2:8. He raises the poor from the dust and lifts the beggar from the ash heap, to set them among princes and make them inherit the throne of glory. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and He has set the world upon them. It's written, He raises the poor from the dust. It means that the person can be really poor. And it's written, and lifts the beggar from the ash heap. The person is so poor that he is deep in dust. He has no apartment, he has no car, he has no money, he has nothing. All he has is his credits, debts, and he has no idea how to get out of that burden. That burden is like an ash. But it's written that he lifts the beggar from the ash heap. And it's also written that he sets them among the princesses and makes them inherit the throne. The throne. Do you understand it? What kind of throne is that? How can a poor person even think of a throne? But the Bible clearly says that He makes them inherit the throne of glory. Now it gets interesting. You begin to understand that God is able to change any situation. He is able to transform anything, to reprogram your life. He can literally give you a new birth. He can give you new things. Here's the secret I have discovered. Find God, find the areas where He moves, find out what He needs, and then become an answer for Him. That's when you will start prospering. It's amazing. But this is something I have discovered in this life. I was so denigrated, so humiliated. I remember Victoria and I, how we were scared of even entering the house of prayer because we owed money to everybody. So we just stood there unable to walk inside because we owed money to everyone, 2 rubles, 3 rubles, 5 rubles, 10 rubles, and people were looking at us funny. We already had the reputation of people who borrowed money and never paid it back. Everybody's attitude towards us was negative, and I can assure you that I was willing to pay my debts back. Yet there was nothing I could do. And finally I understood that the most important thing is to seek God in the areas where He manifests Himself. Take the spot where He manifests Himself and become an answer for Him. You've got to become an answer for Him. You need to find yourself in Him. Let me help you. Sometimes you're unable to understand an important truth. God is right by your side. but you don't see him. He's talking to you, but you're close to him. You hear nothing, but still there is something you can really notice. Suddenly you realize that you touch a certain thing and everything works. And you really become an answer for God. And that feeling releases some good words, good deeds, as though God responded to your pleas. You've done something right. Now you can look for God's response. Imagine that you touch something and God responds right away. You touch something else that God responded again. When you see that God does respond to your actions, take another step, and then another. God will keep responding. Test God. You need to be able to discern things that come from Him. It feels as though everything lights up. More things will appear one after another, and your life will be filled with new things. If something happens and it's not from God, it will be a quick burning followed by smoldering. What does it mean? Our flesh may get excited about something. It feels as though we are on fire, but we are focused on the carnal things. And they begin to smolder. Everything is over. You may touch those things, but there is no life in them. Here is a secret for you. Everything that is from God endures forever. You need to know that verse. It's Ecclesiastes 3:14. Let me read it to you. You're going to see how important it is. If you know important verses from the Bible, you will be armed. This is the reason you need to seek God if you want to prosper. You need to sow seed. You need to sacrifice. When you hear a call to bring forth your sacrifice, remember, here is your chance. Some people choose not to respond, but you'd better think about it and test God. You will definitely see good results. Look here, Ecclesiastes 3:14. I know that everything God does will endure forever. Nothing can be added to it and nothing taken from it. God does it so that people will fear Him. Just look at what He says. I know that everything God does will endure forever. Nothing can be added to it and nothing taken from it. God does it so that people will fear Him. It means that God does a work for us so that we know what God does. Do you know the way God works? Let us say you prosper, but suddenly you get robbed. But God makes sure you know that if your prosperity comes from Him, you will prosper even more after you get robbed. This is exactly what happens in my life. I have experienced it more than once. You prosper more than you could ever imagine. Those are miracles from God because He wants me to fear Him and know that He is behind all things. A man can get robbed. In fact, you can rob God by withholding your tithes. That's what the Bible says. However, if God has given you prosperity, no one will be able to take it away from you. God is able to bless you with even more prosperity. Don't give up. You're going to see changes today, and your heart will be filled with joy. Vladimir Muntian, my friend, remember, I'm with you. Even if you don't have faith, I have it.
Она есть.
Everything I say comes to
Что я
pass.
говорю, обязательно сбывается.
I bless
Я
you
благословляю тебя.
and pray for you, Vladimir Muntian.
Владимир Мунтян.
I'm so grateful to you when you hold my hands, when you support my ministry with your offerings. Thank you very much.
Спасибо вам.
May the Lord bless you 1,000 times.
С молитвой
I'm praying for you, Vladimir Muntian.